Welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Oracle's IBJJF Euros preview. I'm Ross. I'm joined as always by Calum. Calum, this podcast marks our first birthday.
Yeah, first one last year was looking over the Gi Euros, and we're back here again.
Yeah, 110,000 views on YouTube since then. So thanks to everyone who's checked out our podcasts or our shorts. Hopefully there's plenty more content coming in 2025, the first of which is a preview of the IBJJF Euros, where we're just going to tell you what we're looking forward to seeing. We're not going to do a deep dive into absolutely every division, but we're just going to talk about the highlights, talk about what we think you should have a look out for during the event. Focusing only on the adult black belt divisions. There's been loads of exciting matches in the card belt divisions so far. The Euros is one of the deepest and most difficult competitions out there now. I think there's 6,000 people signed up for this Euros. Outside of the Worlds, it doesn't get much tougher in the Gi than the Euros. But when it comes to the black belt adult, starting with the lighter male categories and moving upwards and then on to the women, what are you looking out for?
Yeah, so let me just get the brackets up, or the divisions.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I will say at roosterweight, as usual, I'm looking forward to seeing Tallison, and I think he would be heavily favoured to win that division and maybe start off at the adult black belt divisions, a run of success for AOJ, which is definitely going to be like one of the favourites to be the leading team in the adult black belt divisions because their depth is ridiculous. Calum's currently wondering where his screen's gone, but we're back with, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see plenty of names on your screen, and we're going to highlight some of the guys that are worth watching. So, Calum, I talked about Tallison. Anyone else in it, roosterweight, to have a look out for?
Yeah, he's the main guy I'm looking forward to. He's one of the more enjoyable guys to watch at that weight class with his passing style, so he's the guy I'm looking out for on roosterweight as well.
Cool. And as we move up to light feather, we have Baby Shark in there. Now, originally we thought maybe Baby Shark would be in a different division, yes?
Yeah, I think you'd mentioned that he was signed up at featherweight at one point.
I don't know if he'd signed up at featherweight or whether there was a prediction that he would be at featherweight, but certainly for a while the chat was like featherweight is going to be like one of the most stacked divisions possible. Like there was a lot of good guys in for it. Now we see Baby Shark in at light feather, and we've seen him compete more at Nogi of late. Or certainly that's where I remember seeing more of his matches of late. But fantastic to see him back in the Gi again. Just on that note, I wonder whether we're going to see more guys doing Gi competition, because this year in no Gi seems to be the year of the squads. We have CGI doing a quintet style event. We have Polaris doing squads matches. We have Aiga. I think if guys are wanting like straight traditional one-on-one knockout tournament style jiu-jitsu, then the IBJJF is probably going to be the best way to get it this year. So I wonder whether we're going to see a lot of the guys who we have seen do no-gi recently, but they want that style of tournament, do IBJJF majors. Anyway, give me your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on Baby Shark, and your thoughts on anyone else you think could win this division.
Yeah, I think other names to look out for would be Kevin Carrasco, who I saw in this division. So he's done really well at some IBJJF Gi majors in his time. And then Zach Kaina, just starting out at black belt. He won no-gi worlds, I think, quite recently. So we'll see if he can continue that success over in the Gi. But yeah, those are the few names that I'm looking out for light feather.
And Baby Shark? Favorite?
I would say so. I don't think he's been nearly as dominant in the Gi as he has been in no-gi, but he's definitely still very capable in the Gi, and I think he's probably still the favourite for this division.
What about my thought that we might see quite a lot of guys choosing to do IBJJF this year. I'm just basing that on what I see at the Euros, which is pretty deep in terms of firepower. So I'm just wondering whether that's a reason, like guys want that style of tournament.
Yeah, I think that's sound logic, and I think we saw last year some people not do the gi just to specifically zone in on whatever no gi competition they were doing. For example, Kynan didn't do any gi competitions last year to focus on ADCC. So yeah, might see a bit of a reverse in this year, a bit more gi focused from the hybrid athletes.
Now, featherweight is still deep because we have one of your personal favorites, Diego Pato, in there. We have Kennedy Maciel, who had a great run at the IBJJF majors last year. Kola Bat is another name that jumps out. So give me your thoughts on this division.
Yeah, so I would have to put Pato as the favourite for this weight class, even though typically light feather is his preferred weight class for the gi, but just how dominant he's been in gi and no gi the past few years, I'd have to put him as my number one. And then he's got a win over Kennedy in no gi at ADCC. So we'll see if you can tangle him up in the same sort of positions. As far as Kolabati, he's definitely one of the bigger names in this division, but as far as what he's shown at black belt in the gi, has not quite lived up to what he's done in no-gi, so we'll see if he can bring his gi game up to his no-gi level. But he's definitely got the potential to start winning these competitions in the near future, if not now. So we'll see, I guess, when they compete.
Yeah, still early days for him at the black belt level, and then he had an injury that took him out of the game for a wee bit not that long ago that he's now recovered from and looked good of late when he's competed. So yeah, it's like entering that like top echelon is like as successful as he's been through all the colored belts. Like it is still a step up. So we'll see if he can take that step this year or maybe next year. I wonder with Kennedy, like we had this discussion last year that like, he had a huge amount of success, and he seemed to be good at winning. It's kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs this year, which I know you're more of an NBA fan than an NFL fan, but just bear with me for this, right? The Chiefs, they've not played like the best football in terms of like scoring the most points or being the most easy on the eye, but like they have found out how to win and they just keep winning. And like, you know, you think eventually like it's got to come to an end, and like they just seem to keep winning and they're winning. Kennedy was like that for last year for me. It's just like there was a lot of close matches, but it was always his hand getting raised at the end of it. And it's like, well, does that mean he's going to keep that going and he's worked out how to win, or does it mean that like he was just in a purple patch in terms of like getting success?
Yeah, I think just his athleticism, his ability to stay on top, and then his ability just to kind of come up on a single leg and get a score kind of feeds right into that ability just to win. You know, when you're a nightmare to deal with physically, that translates into every part of the game. And then just having that ability to come up on a single leg, get a score at any moment is massive as far as just winning, especially these kind of matches at black belt level in these lighter divisions. It is going to come down to who can get the last score on the board a lot of the time. So that's huge. And then ability to stay on top and not get scored on himself is huge as well. So yeah, even if it's not the most aesthetically pleasing jiu-jitsu or the prettiest jiu-jitsu, just his ability to utilize those three things is massive.
Yeah, and he was like, him and Mika were both on for the Super Grand Slam.
Yeah.
You know, at one point. So that's how good Kennedy's year was. Ultimately, it was Mika that went on to win a Super Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Anything else there worth flagging up?
Yeah, two other guys I'm really looking forward to watching that I always look forward to. So if you've got like a spider guard, double sleeve, tarantula guard kind of game, then I would suggest looking out for Brian Mahitcha and Sebastian Serpa, both coming out of Outer Haven. So in my opinion, those are two of, if not the best guys at playing that kind of upper body style gi guard with the double sleeve or tarantula guard. So if you're into that kind of game or trying to get better, I suggest watching their matches.
Okay. Lightweight features a few of your, what we'll say is grapplers that you like to watch.
Yeah.
So, originally I'd said we were chatting about this, I was like, "Oh, your boy's in this one." Calum was like, "How does that make him my boy? Just because I like watching him?" So we'll just say like grapplers that you like to watch. So from what I remember, there was Espen Mathisen was one. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he's representing his new team, Mavericks, with John Thomas. So we'll see how that's affected his game. Obviously, going into more of a coaching role and being alongside John Thomas with a very similar game to him. So hopefully, we'll see some developments in Espen's game from that.
Will we see some bolos and back takes?
I think so.
Okay, it's that it's good to see that like we had like a huge boom in that, and then it's now just part of like the overall game, but there's some guys that still excel in that, and Espen's certainly one of them. We've got Pablo Lavaselli from AOJ. He's in here, right? Yep. There we go. And who have you noted that's back on the scene?
Yeah, so the name I was most excited for was Mateus Gabriel. So Mateus Gabriel, around the time of COVID, after COVID, around that time, was doing really well. He won a gi world title at black belt, and he was looking like at featherweight he was going to become that guy. Because we've spoken about this with Shea, how since Hafa and Cabrinha, that division's kind of been wide open and they've not had a dominant champion. It was looking like Mateus was going to be that guy at featherweight, and then he moved up and then he didn't quite compete as much, but I'm glad to see him back, and he's definitely my favorite for this division. Like we spoke about with Kennedy, just his ability to win. He's just so savvy of a competitor, his ability to not get scored on in certain situations and just manipulate the rule set and environment that he's in to get a win at any point. And then just on top, he's just got ridiculous balance and pass, and he's got a really dangerous guard game on bottom as well. So I think he's the big favourite for this division.
For those who are wondering, just in case you don't know, the name Shea that Calum was referencing is Shea Montague, friend of the podcast, friend of both of us, great grappler. Check out his Instagram, check out his Patreon. He's at the cutting edge of the game, and hopefully he'll be back in the mix at the adult black belt level in the not too distant future. He's just coming back from an injury. So, middleweight, Calum.
Yeah.
This is this features two guys that we've talked about a fair bit on the podcast. I remember going way back to the start of the podcast and talking about Tainan and Andy Murasaki, and it looks like they're on a collision course again. The division's much smaller. I wondered if people saw those two names in the division and thought, might be able to cut a bit more weight or might be able to put a bit on and avoid that, because I think this is going to be Tainan versus Andy once again for the title, unless the seeding works out completely different, which I wouldn't know why, but they are the heavy favorites, right?
Yeah, for sure. I imagine they're going to be number 1 and 2 seed given all the accolades they've ranked up at black belt the past few years. Aside from rooster weight and ultra heavy, which are the two biggest and smallest weight classes, this has got the least amount of competitors, and middleweight being somewhat in the middle of the human range of weights, you would imagine that it's going to have one of the higher numbers of competitors, and it typically does, but not this time. So whether that's just pure coincidence or it is people seeing Tainan and Andy signing up and then moving division from there, we don't really know. But yeah, I think those two seem to be the clear favourites to get to the final, and then Tainan the clear favourite to win, just given how all of their matches in the past have gone. 2
questions. So one, what do you think we might see from Tainan? Have you seen anything evolve in his game of late? Might we see like him go to a certain place that he's started to add, or will we just see like classic Tainan performance? So I'd like to get your thoughts on what kind of Tainan we might see. And then 2, on Andy, like if Tainan wasn't there or wasn't like in this division, would Andy be the kingpin in this division?
Yeah, for the first one, I think the main thing that's changed with Tainan in the past year or two is just his involvement in the no-gi scene. So we see a lot of the guys that train gi and no-gi, they've got certain tools in their arsenal that maybe are a bit underdeveloped for the gi guys, especially in the wrestling department. So Tainan's used a lot of wrestling in his matches, and then even just like wrestling up. So might see a bit more of that. He might stand a little bit with Andy in the match or just in his other matches. So I think just the effect that him competing in no-gi has had on his game might be something to look out for and see how that develops. And then what was your question about Andy?
Well, would he be the guy if it wasn't for Tainan? Because I think like Andy, you know, it's just what happens in sports sometimes. You know, if you live in the era of Michael Jordan, you could be Charles Barkley, and like otherwise you could have multiple titles to your name, and then you don't. And I just wonder about Andy, like whether, you know, if Tynan's not there, or you know, well, one is like, do you ever see Andy beating Tynan? And then two, like if Tynan's not there, is Andy the guy here?
Yeah, he's obviously he's in a tough position to have guys around about him like Tainan, like Mika. And then to be fair, he's lost quite consistently to Jonathan Alves as well, who is very good himself. Probably not considered quite on the level of Tainan and Mika. But yeah, he's definitely got the capability to win a world title. Maybe Tainan gets injured 1 year or something like that. I to be honest, with how the matches have gone in the past, I don't see him beating a Tainan or a Mika, but just takes one of those guys to get injured and he can kind of slot himself in there. But he is very unlucky in that fact. If you were to do like a pound for pound ranking in the gi, he'd probably be, in my opinion, where I would list him very high, considering the fact that he's never won a gi world championship, just because he is so good. His passing's really good. We've seen him compete in absolute divisions and wreck people that are way bigger than him, and do very well. But just in his weight class, he's got some generational talents that he just can't seem to get past. So hopefully he does win a match or two against those guys in some big competitions that count. But I do think he is surely due for a world title at some point in his career, whether it's one of those guys getting injured or him getting over the hump and beating those guys.
No, you're right. It's super deep. I mean, there's Johnson Gomez kicking about as well. You know, it's like it is a deep. I just wonder, like, you think about another Andy Murray, right? Lived in the era, competed in the era of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, but Murray came through and he won a couple of majors, including Wimbledon. Yeah, hopefully for Andy Murasaki, like there is a gold in there one day, and it's not because, you know, I just think he's really, really good and, you know, possibly underrated. And I like seeing him compete. And it's just like, then he runs into like a Tainan. But that's the way sport goes. Right. Medium heavy. I find this one interesting. There could be a clash of styles here between Anderson Ferreira and Izaki Bahiense. What else do you see? Do you think I'm right with that? Or do you see any other names maybe coming through?
Yeah, I feel like they've had matches recently, but I honestly can't confirm whether that's true or I'm just making that up, and I can't confirm how they've went. I just feel like they maybe have recently. Do you remember those matches going down?
I'll look for it. You keep talking.
Yeah. So is Hugh Anderson won a major yet as well?
I think he did. Did he do really well at like a Pans recently?
Yeah, maybe. I think talent wise, like he could definitely become the guy at this division.
Yeah. So it was
Yeah, on you go.
2024 Pans.
Yeah.
He won. So you were saying.
Yeah, I think talent-wise, he can definitely win a lot of these competitions and even become like a dominant champion at this weight class. Ridiculous athleticism and speed and timing. Really good stand-up, really good passing. I think some of the guys that have beat him have been more on the veteran side and been able to slow him down and frustrate him a little bit. But I think once he gets to grip with the tactic side of things as well, obviously when you've got someone like that that's able to kind of like a movie, throw people like Faris over his shoulder and catch an armbar in midair and do these kind of things and blow people out in 5 to 10 seconds. Sometimes when those people run into more difficult matches, they can struggle initially, but I think once he gets a bit more experience and comes to grips with not just smoking people in 30 seconds and altering his game for people that are more on his level, he can definitely become a really dominant champion. So yeah, super exciting and talented and looking forward to watching him. Also looking forward to watching Shane Fishman as well. Just feel like watching his game.
So 2 points, right? So one, yes, Anderson faced Izaki in 2002 and he won fourth field.
I do.
Yeah. Now, that's according to BJJ Heroes, so there might be more matches since. Right.
You realize you said 2002?
2022.
Right, okay.
Right. So Yeah, we're not going back into the era of Marcelo like in the previous pod. And even then, yeah, anyway. So 2022, Anderson against Izaki, 4-3 on points for Anderson. I don't know if they've had matches since. And your second point, while you were correcting me there, was what?
Just mentioning Shane Fishman.
Oh, Shane Fish, right? Yes. Okay. I love guys who like play a slightly different game and make it work. Now Shane Fishman, yeah, you might know him for like fishnet type of half guard game, but like I just love like he goes into like his area where he's like an absolute expert at, and like he makes it work and he wins matches from there. And like recently we had a seminar at SBG Aberdeen with Shetel Lidvo, who isn't competing at this Euros. But if he was, I think he would be favourite to do pretty well. Hopefully we see him at the Worlds. But Shetel plays a half guard game, totally different to Shane Fishman, but like he makes it work at the elite level. And like guys I've seen do that in the past are people like Alexander Trans, who like they play jiu-jitsu in a way that works really, really well for them, and they're not scared to do that, and like they don't feel obliged to do with what becomes the norm or the meta. So I totally agree. I love watching Shane Fishman. I like how he plays the game the best way for him, and I like seeing like the adaptations he's making. And I'll continue this point when we get into the heavyweight category. All right, but as for now, anything else in medium heavy?
Yeah, those are the kind of guys I'm looking out for personally that we've already mentioned.
All right, so like the heavyweight, talking about guys who play a game, their game, play it really, really well. Adam Wardzinski would obviously be like the favorite in this division, being the reigning world champion, and adding things to their game. We see Adam not just using like that absolutely devastating butterfly hook, but now playing a lot more sit-up guard, foot sweeps from sit-up guard, wrestling up, taking top position, devastating people from mount. So he's a great example of someone who like, you know, doesn't go with like, well, he actually with Adam, like he's kind of making the meta in a way, because like certainly like I've watched this game and been like, right, I need to add in a lot of this stuff because like this is, you know, really, really effective in the gi, and I need to be doing this. But yeah,
It's almost just like created the Gordon Ryan of the gi and just be like, yeah, I'm going to be that. Very much modified Gordon's game into the gi using various grips and whatever, but very similar game. Just he's not completely copied it, he's just modified it to the gi, it looks like.
Okay, I was going to say Gordon Ryan in terms of the game, yeah?
Yeah.
Not in terms of the personality.
No.
Okay. But yeah, really looking forward to see Adam again. Compete. Hey, can we give a shout out to our teammate in the heavyweight division?
Yep.
Ben Campbell, rookie black belt, managed to qualify for the Euros. Got to the 30-point threshold and is in the mix. So that's awesome for him, and hopefully he's able to perform well and give us, you know, I was waiting to say give us something to talk about in the next podcast when we can bring him up again, but like I think it's bigger than that. If he wins a match, then just giving us content for our podcast. So yeah, go Ben. Right. Super heavy. Anderson Muniz would probably be the standout here. There he is. So, anyone else?
Yeah, no, he's the only name that's really jumping out to me.
Because what, he's reigning world champ. I think he won Pans as well. So, and I don't think his brother's competing anymore. Eric, who big favorite of the podcast. But yeah, I think Anderson would be favored there. And then what have we got? Ultra. Maybe Scooby, Marcus Ribeiro.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, not really anything else jumping out to me too much.
Okay, now let's talk about the women's division. So I'll throw a few names at you. So have you got the rooster weight there?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Is Shelby there? Is she competing? Or is she not there?
It doesn't look like it, no.
So she was one that was like flagged up before. But what I find difficult with the events like this is like people come and go, and like you don't have Sky Sports giving you like the team news update before the match takes place as to like who's in and out. So yeah, really small female rooster division there. So
Medals.
and then light feather, again, small division. But I think like one grappler worth mentioning in amongst all them is Mayasa Bastos, yes?
Yeah.
So why do you like watching Mayasa compete? What might we see from her?
Yeah, she's got a really, really good guard game. Uses a lot of lapel guards, Del Hiva, Berimbolos. So really like watching her game because of that. I can definitely tell the influence from training over at Unity and Cicero Costas from all those guys.
Yeah. Now, moving into feather, one name that jumps out to me, I don't know whether she'll take the title because she's like super new to the black belt scene, but Kasia Mura, you should like go and read her story because she went like blue to black, I think inside a year. And I think it was on Flow Grappling I read about it, how that was possible within like the IBJJF timelines, because if you win world titles, like you can move up a belt right away. But I'm not sure if she's made the final cut there, Calum, looking at your screen, but she was one that like I took a note of on my way through the list.
You're there.
Okay. Well, still an interesting story for a grappler at that weight, if you want to read about her. So, I mean, the one name outside of like Mayasa Bastos that really stood out was Gabi Pisagna. Now, she seems to win double gold at absolutely every event she takes part in. Yes?
Yeah.
So we'd be expecting another double gold performance from her to continue her reign as the most dominant grappler in the world right now. And just like while we're highlighting some of the other women, I believe, although, you know, maybe like they've pulled out recently, but like a couple of ones I'm looking forward to watching. I believe Aurelie Laverne will be in the medium heavy division. So if she's down, I'd like to watch her. She's been super impressive. Yep, good. And yeah, I think maybe at middle, one of the grapplers who might come through there, European grappler, is Sulame Loventhal. She, you know, I think she's just on the cusp of being able to win a major. So, you know, hopefully, like, she has a good performance and comes through. But really, like, I think the two standouts in terms of like name value there are Mayasa in the lighter weights, Gabi in the heavier weights, and probably Gabi to double gold and take the absolute title as well. So, anything else you want to touch on regarding the Euros in general or anyone specific?
Nope, cool to see it back in Lisbon. I think this is the first time since COVID, maybe. So nice to get the classic green background on all the matches. But apart from that, no.
Okay, good. Well, we'll be watching the Euros across the weekend, and no doubt we'll be back in the near future to give you our thoughts on everything we see there. And once again, Marcelo Garcia back competing. So that is definitely something we'll be tuning in for, and we'll be back with our thoughts on his match at 1 against Imanari as well. So for now, happy birthday to the Jiu Jitsu Oracle, Calum.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll see you again soon.